Natalie, I'm so excited to have you on Entrepreneur School today.
Thank you, Kelly. I couldn't be happier to be here to chat to you.
Yeah, I'm pumped about this. It's kind of like a follow-up. We've had a conversation where I was a guest on your podcast. Remind everybody the name of your podcast so they can go and find it.
It's your success tonic, and Kelly just came and shone brightly on the podcast. So you have to check out her episode on it as well.
Yes, and if it's out at the same time, I'll make sure that we link it below so that we can see each other's. It's always great. I love being a podcast host and meeting other podcasters and then having conversations on each other's shows, especially when we have aligned audiences and some, aligned vision and beliefs and values ourselves. So this is going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, me too. Yes.
Yeah, so first, why don't you tell everyone just a little bit about yourself so that we can dive into the conversation we're going to have about the F word today. And that F
Yes,
word
yes.
being failure and how we can think about that differently. And I think it's a really important conversation.
Yes, I do too. Thank you, Kelly. I think that it's a big one, and it doesn't matter what your career is, or or what your focus is. Those feelings of failure always come up. But yeah, so just a bit about me first. I'm a success coach for entrepreneurs. So I really help them grow the business built around their strengths. And that's really my focus, and to help simplify things. Because one of the things when you become an online entrepreneur is that there's a lot of opinions, a lot of advice, a lot of resources out there, and it can get seriously overwhelming really, really quickly. And it can be hard to know where to focus in your business. It might not match somebody else's story, it might not match somebody else's trajectory. So it's not easy to follow a blueprint. And so that's where I can really help.
Oh, I love that so much because I feel like, so many people out there are sharing their quote, like what you just said, blueprints, their follow my step-by-step way of how I did what I did. And that's great because they clearly had the success that they had, and they're now willing to share with others. And why wouldn't you follow a blueprint or give somebody can hand you a map instead of you trying to navigate it yourself? And that should be, quote, so much easier.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't always work out that way because there's so many other factors in your own business and your own like goals and your own style and your own everything that play into it, right? And so right away, it can start to feel like you're failing when you feel like you try to especially invest in something that was supposed to help you do this faster and easier.
Exactly. And that was actually my experience starting out as well. And I know a lot of my clients have had that experience. They thought, oh, well, I've got this program, it's highly regarded, it's a really well-known program, it's going to be great. And then you do that and you learn a lot, but it might just not be the right fit for you at this particular point in your journey. And so then, yes, that feeling of like, well, what am I doing wrong? It's easy for other people. Everyone is saying this is easy. It's not easy for me. So what is it that I'm doing wrong? And that is just the horrible place to be. And because then you go into this kind of downward spiral where you're starting to lose confidence. You start to second guess everything that you do. You start to spend a lot of time researching, studying, trying to figure out what's the right way to go about it. Yeah, I want to just not allow people to do that, because I went there. It's really horrible.
Yes, let's
So I'm here to help. Yeah, let's not go there.
Oh, that rings so true. I've definitely gone through many versions of that experience myself too, because we always have this like ambition, right? And here's where I want to be, and also here's where other people are, or at least where I believe that they are based on what they're showing to the world, and you never really even know like how true that necessarily is. And then you just
Yeah.
you're constantly falling short and you're chasing it, right? So how do we reframe that?
I think one of the biggest shifts that needs to happen is really an internal shift, right? So that's where having a coach can make all the difference, because you can have amazing strategy, but without that, the reframe that you're talking about, without that kind of internal shift, then you can have the best strategy in the world, and it's just, you're going to constantly kind of come up against these brick walls that you're going to hit. And it's really a lot to do with like internal narratives around what success really means and what being successful should look like, and also habits of playing small, of just wanting to stay small, maybe fear around visibility, which I know is something that you work with your clients around, which is such a huge block for so many people. And so when we start to go into all of that and start looking at all these patterns, these stories, the big thing is to really approach it with curiosity and compassion. And I think that the reframe is really, I'm learning just like everyone else is, and I am right on time with my path. I'm not behind. Everyone isn't further ahead than me. And if they are, they're also, they're doing their thing and I'm doing mine. And where I am is just fine. I think that's anything that you can do when you're in that place of just exploring these very, entrenched patterns and thought processes. Anything you can do to kind of soften the energy around it, and the pressure, that's going to start to release some of that tension and start to allow you to start to think about it in a very, very different way.
Yes, you're pointing out for sure that we are our own worst critics, right? We give ourselves such a hard time about not being like, I love how you said that. I am right on time in my journey right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that we were kind of having a pre-chat before we got on here. And again, we're going recording this in advance, but we've just rolled over a new year, and there's so much pressure at this time of year to feel like you've got to have these goals set. You've got to change your diet and do all these things right away. And if it's January 3rd, you're already behind, and we just feel like we've failed so quickly before we've even given ourselves a chance to, go at our own pace.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it comes back to this, idea of the answers, looking for answers outside of you, right? So you want to step into someone else's, program, or the perfect way to set goals, the perfect way to build your presence online. You're pushing yourself to follow someone else's plan, but really, the real answers are always inside. And so having that self-confidence and that self-trust, or reconnecting to your self-confidence, because as I said earlier, entrepreneurship can really hammer your confidence. It can really, really, put some, deadly blows to it. So, reconnecting to that confidence and learning to trust that the right way forward for your business. And that also doesn't just take the pressure off. It allows you to find the right help, the right match for you. Someone who's going to come alongside and guide you in a way that feels right to you, as opposed to you pushing and forcing into something. And also building a business that's built around what you value the most and what you want to put out into the world, which is also so important.
Yeah, and I want to come back to something that you said a few minutes ago about having your own definition of success. And I know this is something that you like to talk about for sure. And so how do you sort of frame that for people so that they can think about what their own definition of success is, and maybe share your own with us?
Oh yeah, I'd love to, because I think that you know, when we are, growing up and when we start out in our first jobs, we are taught that working harder is what gets us results, right? Many of us are taught that, and we've internalized that idea that when we're not getting the results we want, we just need to put in a little bit more effort, work a little bit harder. And then the success that comes on the other side of that is external recognition of the result that you produced. And then, and so a lot of us associate success with certain markers of success that we've been told that's what success is, right? Like, more qualifications, more awards, etc. Usually it's financial rewards, all of those things. But, you know, stepping out of that mindset of like when I'm stuck, the thing I have to do is dig in and work harder. That is the hardest thing to do, right? Because this is just how we've been wired and what we've been taught. And so when we are working really, really hard, and we're doubling down on our efforts and we're going all in on the business, because that is what we've been told to do, right? When you start your business, you got to go all in. You're not, no wavering, and do as much as you can. And so you do that. And when you don't get the financial reward for all that hard work, you're not bringing in the clients, you're not seeing the sales that you're looking for, or you're not getting any acknowledgement of the content that you're creating and putting out there, that can just feel like a terrible, terrible blow. And so that is the opportunity that we have as entrepreneurs, is to start to think about, what does success truly mean? And what does it feel like when I get to really show up in a way that matters the most to me, and so that we can kind of move out of that frame and start to think about, how can I generate the results that I really want? And yes, those are financial. Of course they are. As a business owner, you have to have money coming in, otherwise you don't have a business. So, but it's so much to do with that internal sense of like pushing, and telling myself I am failing if I'm not getting there. And so when I started my business, I 100% felt that I came from being used to success, being used to working hard and getting the results. And so I was completely bewildered, totally bewildered. And I had no understanding of what I was doing wrong. I really thought I must be doing something completely wrong. Everyone else has this figured out except for me. And I have no idea. What is it? I'm following these blueprints. I'm following all these programs. I'm doing all the things I've been told. And I'm working, extra hard, getting up earlier than I did when I had my job, and going to bed really, really late, and, sacrificing a lot in order to get to that level of success. And I know so many of us are out there doing that. And then, I hit full burnout. I really did. I just hit a point where I could no longer function in that way anymore. And I knew it wasn't serving me, and it wasn't taking me anywhere I actually wanted to go. And so that's when I had that real deep journey inward to find this very new way of thinking about how I want to create the results that I'm really looking for. And that's the thing, is really, being able to be curious around, well, this isn't working for me, so what might work for me? What kind of ways of doing and thinking do I need to learn about? Because there's a whole other way of doing it, which can be fun and easy. And it's like, when you have that figured out, oh my goodness, it feels incredible.
And yes, and I imagine, I'm curious to know, when you talk about the results that you're looking for, what does that mean? What are some of those like markers for you? And how do those expand beyond just, the financial results and the impact that you have inside of your business?
Yeah, I think that like I said, I think a lot of people, when they start with the business, they're looking for um, very specific markers of success, and usually those are purely financial. But many of us who start businesses actually have a real vision for something that we want to bring into the world, and it's usually something that ties in very deeply with the magic that we have inside, the strengths and the talents and that sort of that beautiful cocktail of something unique and special that we want to share with the world, and finding how to do that, what form that should take, creating a business around that means that we want to start thinking about connecting with others in a different way. We want to start to create a schedule that is nurturing to us, to other people, to the people that are coming into the business, so that there isn't this sense of pressure and just discomfort that a lot of people have around sales, around marketing, around growth. When you think about growth, what does that look like for you? And and for many people who are vision driven, that really means about impact. When you start to really tie into that deeply, I want to connect with this many people so that I can help them with the thing that I'm uniquely gifted to help them with. And so that they can then do something amazing as well and feel great about what they're doing. I mean, then that starts to create this ripple effect, and you start to feel like the work you do really is meaningful and matters to you. And when you can do that, then it's not work anymore, but it's not easy to get to that place. That was my experience anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, like, in some of the work I've done lately, like internal work that I've done lately, I've had the realization that, like, that is a great, like, goal, right? And we're as driven and vision impact driven entrepreneurs, we do really put a lot of value in what we can do to help other people. But if there's still a link missing and you are not able to get the clients for whatever reason, then you feel even less like successful because, and I think it's because you're attaching your personal worth to your ability to help other people.
Yeah.
And that sends you back into that spiral of not feeling like you're good enough and then questioning everything that you do and wondering whether you even have what it takes to be an entrepreneur or the skill set to like deliver on what it is that you want to do. And it can be like a little mucky hole. So
Yes.
for me now, success has to also involve just the things that I can control, right? Like my schedule, the flexibility that I have, the ability to be home with my kids when I need to be and take them where they need to go, and to give them the life that I want to give to them and the role that I get to play in that. And leaning into both that and as equally valuable as any success that I can have inside of my business is helping to like reconcile what that looks like and have a bit more of a, I guess, holistic view on success and goals and being able to move forward towards both of those things at the same time.
Yes. I love that. And I think one of the first shifts that I made when I was going from that place of really struggling and self-doubt and just not getting results that I wanted, that one of the first shifts I made was to start to design my schedule and my life around how I wanted it to look like when I was a success. And so what that meant was I'm not working till 9 p.m. because if I'm successful, no, I'm not working till 9 p.m. I finish my work at a specific time, and then I have time for my family, and I have time for self-care, and I have time to go to yoga, and I have time to go for walks. I don't just say, well, no, I can't. I have to do, these 10 other things that I've told myself I have to do. That's not what you do when you're in that state of feeling like your work is fruitful and productive and serves an important purpose. So yeah, designing my schedule was one of the first things I did, and it really changed how I felt coming into my day every day. And it definitely helped reframe that sense of like I'm not scrambling, I'm not frantic. Taking some of that frantic energy out is really, really powerful.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that, behind that fear of failure that's driving that kind of energy, right, that kind of frantic work kind of focus is really, this the big shift that has to happen is understanding that there is no such thing as failure, right? And when you start to say to yourself, I am not failing, I'm not a failure, because like, you cannot be a failure, because failure is not a characteristic, right? It is just, and it's just,
A verb.
it's just data, right? It's what I always tell my clients. You tried something and it didn't work. It's just time to move on to the next thing. To try, you just didn't use the tools that you needed. You didn't have everything aligned, but now you have something to work with, because now you know that didn't lead to what you wanted. So now you just have to move on from that. So there is no such thing as failure, because first of all, we can't be failures. And second of all, everything that you're doing is information, super valuable information to what you're going to do next. And the thing that you need to do is to iterate as fast as possible, is to learn, okay, that didn't work, and give yourself a deadline to try something out, stick with it, and then just say, okay, I tried that, and this was the positive thing that came out of it, and then these were the things I didn't like so much. So what's next, And this is again when having coaching is so helpful, because that's having that constant reframing, that constant reminder of these things, and putting it into context and getting the right tools at the right time. Well, that just propels you out of that state really, really fast.
Yeah, and that is a tricky one, the speed and the pace for entrepreneurs, right? Because we put so many things on our to-do list, and then we think that we have to get all of this done today. If we didn't get it done, then you are like, oh, I'll just work later because I can, or whatever, instead of like giving yourself all of the other pieces are factors. I truly believe that like you're going to start feeling heavier, you're going to feel more like pressure that you're putting on yourself if you are working at that pace versus working at the pace, like you said, of how you would be if you were, quote, successful, if you were at that place that you're trying to get to. So that's that whole
Yeah.
like manifestation of like do have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that shifts when you're in that state of like, I'm working towards my success, when you start to think of it like that, as opposed to I'm not successful, it's if you start to think I'm working towards my success and everything I'm doing is leading me that way, then the way that you approach everything shifts. And one of the key ways that I found that really shifted was being even more willing to take risks. Now, every entrepreneur is a risk taker. You have to be to be an entrepreneur. You have to have a certain tolerance for risk. You wouldn't be in it otherwise. But you can, when you start to think of it in this way of like, I'm on the right, I'm on the right track, and what I'm doing is just helping me get better at what I do, then you can much more easily take a bigger risk. And it's those bigger risks that really get you the bigger rewards as well. And so that is such a valuable experience, and stop thinking of yourself as just like isolated and like you're the only one who's messing this all up, and that's another big piece of it.
Oh, absolutely. Because we're all over here going, yeah, raising hands, relating to
Yeah.
every single thing that you say for sure. Thank you so much for this insightful conversation. It's been very eye-opening and just a good reminder when we get into that place, because sometimes we don't notice, right, that we've kind of dug ourselves into a bit
Yeah.
of a hole because it's like little things that happen or don't happen along the way that all of a sudden you go, how did I get over here? If you're not
Yeah.
reflecting back regularly, which is something we often forget to do because we're so focused on whatever the goal is too. So yeah, I think this
Yeah.
would be a really helpful conversation for anyone to listen to. And on that note, please let everybody know where they can continue to connect with you, where they can reach out if they have follow-up questions or if they're interested in working together with you.
Oh, I would love anyone to reach out with any thoughts or questions on our conversation. You can find me on LinkedIn at Nathalie Pincham, and also on my website, storytonic.co. And yeah, there's always fun stuff happening. There's my podcast and then workshops happening all the time. So come and chat.
Excellent. All of those links will be below, and it's Nathalie with an H.
Yes, yes, it is. The French spelling of Natalie. Yes.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Kelly.